It's great to be a movie star. Thank you all for coming to the West Boca Community Council. I'm Sherry Scarborough. I'm the president of the council. Tonight, I'm going to do our business first, which is actually, it's the council's annual meeting and election of the directors. So I'm going to start with that, and then I'll get into our guests who are here. This literally will only take 1 second. I know a couple of you were at Cobra's annual meeting, and it was hours long. Ours is just 1 second. So the candidates for our board tonight is Neil Schiller.
Raise your hand, please.
Margie Halsheen, she's not here. Ellen Winnicott. Elliot Burns. Arthur Charwat. Jeanette Kamasian. Stanley Bernstein. I know he's here. Hello. Stanley. Nick Ronjone. Sherry Scarborough. And Paul Pontrelli. If I could please ask the secretary to cast one ballot for the candidates.
I cast a ballot for all the candidates announced.
Thank you. And welcome back to our board. Although I'm the spokesperson and you see me most frequently, it is this board of directors that does so much work behind the scenes, attends meetings, makes contacts with us, and we couldn't do without them. So thank you all. With that being done, we will move on to our regular meeting, and I would like to welcome the following guests. Mike Pratt.
Hi, from the Palm Beach County Property Appraiser's Office.
Anything?
I handed out our complete brochure. It actually opens up very nicely, and there's a lot of information on there. If anybody needs any questions answered, I'll be happy to.
Thank you. Captain Moss.
As usual, I'll provide a quick update for what's going on in West Boca from Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. If anyone doesn't know me, I think most people do. My name is David Moss. I'm the commander for District 7, West Boca Raton, Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. Just some numbers. I know last time I didn't give any because we had the therapy dogs, but really quick, residential burglaries are pretty much a little bit down about by 4%, but the concern is vehicle burglaries year to date have almost doubled from where they were last year. Not quite sure why. We get a lot of people coming up from Broward County that hit our areas. So if you're out there and you speak to your friends and so forth, I would say be cautious in shopping areas. A lot of the parks, we've been seeing some problems at the Veterans Park lately, so be aware of that. The only next big item, which everyone is always asking about, including Sherry, is vehicle accidents. And so where are we with vehicle accidents year to date for West Boca? We're at about the same number as we were last year, which is we have a lot of vehicle accidents, but we haven't gone up tremendously or anything like that. What we have seen lately, and I'll caution everyone, is incidences of road rage. We had one today between two ladies. There was some pepper spray involved, and some. It was not any. We're up here. And anyway, so if you're driving, and I know there's a lot of issues out there, and someone makes you mad, don't get involved, don't confront them, etc. If you have to, call the police and/or 911. But you never know who's driving that other car, and it could turn out to be dangerous. A few weeks ago, we had, and I know it was in the media, a bicyclist that got into a verbal argument with someone driving a truck, and the person driving the truck went up on the sidewalk and ran the bicyclist over, putting him in the hospital. So these things happen. It's best not to get involved. Call us and let us take care of business. So with that being, yes.
Can you speak to, I believe it was an incident yesterday on 441 in Palmetto where someone said that this woman in a car, that she rear-ended them and they wanted her to get out of the car? You were the, your detective sent it out.
Yeah, I did read that. It was sent out from our detectives.
Highway robbery.
Yes, we used to see it a lot 10, 15 years ago, and/or insurance fraud, where someone will bump the car in front of them, being the victim, meaning you, and then when the person gets out to check damage, then they go ahead and sometimes they'll rob that individual. This was the first notice that I've seen of that.
It was reverse, actually. She was in the car behind them.
Yeah, and that's, so let's say you're at a stoplight, someone will put their car in reverse, back into you, and then when the police show up, you know, do this, and either claim that you hit them, or again, that, you know, they make the claim they were hit, or they'll actually rob the individual that they decided to run into. So,
So
you know,
don't get out of your car.
yeah, so be cautious. Always have, if you can, your phone with you. Call us right away. You know, if you can, without putting yourself in danger, take some video, take some pictures, etc. So that will help us. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We also have from the Sheriff's Office, Leslie Schreiber, on the Sheriff's right hand. Thank you for coming, Leslie. You want to give any update or anything?
Oh, no, I think Captain Moss does it better than me.
Thank you. Also, Judge D'Amico,
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I'm
Right.
Judge Paul D'Amico, and I've been your county court judge now going on 21 years, and I have an election this term. The election will be August 23rd for my seat. County court is a cool court. If those of you, if you ever come into contact with a court, it's probably going to be the county court. I handle misdemeanors, civil cases under $30,000 in value, animal regulation cases, and then traffic, careless driving tickets, and there's tons and tons of those that come through me. So it's a neat court because it's the people's court. So you want to have competent people, and as important as a competent judge, you want a judge that is going to treat everybody that comes before him with the utmost respect. And if you read a little bit about me, you'll find out that I'm competent, but I really go the extra mile in treating everybody. My motto is, when they come before me in court, I want to treat that person, I want everybody in court to treat the person as though it's a member of their family. And I've been doing that for 20 years, and I'd like to do that another 6 years for you all. So thank you for your support.
Thank you. We also have another candidate here tonight, Karen Zipperstein, who's running for judge. Want to introduce yourself real quick?
Thank you. My name is Karen Zipperstein. I live here in Boca area. I'm running for Palm Beach County Circuit Court Judge in Group 23. And I've been practicing law for 20 years. I currently work at the Attorney General's office doing civil litigation for the past 5 years as a Senior Assistant Attorney General. We actually represent the state, its agencies, and employees when they get sued, including judges, prosecutors, public defenders, Department of Transportation, Tri-Rail, etc. I have a wide range of legal experience, and I hope to have an opportunity to serve our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I miss anybody? I don't think I did. So with that, we're going to turn it over to our dynamic duo in Tallahassee. They're going to give us an update, what went on in Tallahassee, what's coming, and what we need to do to support them and help them. So, Senator Polsky, you want to go first?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It is so nice to be back with you all. The last time I saw you was when we used to be at Boca, and then COVID hit, and truly coming back to this group feels like coming back home for me. I have lived in West Boca. I represented this area for the past 4 years, and I'm excited to hopefully continue to do so. So I'm going to explain the new boundaries and everything that have gone on with redistricting. Along with Representative Skidmore, we'll kind of do a back and forth. We are partners. We do a lot of work together for the communities that we represent together. But the Senate is 3 times as large, and there's only 40 of us in the state Senate. I was a state rep, actually, in this seat, District 81, and then for the past 2 years I've been the state senator. And I represent all of Boca, among other areas right now. Every 10 years, the legislature has to do a redistricting process, and that's because we have a new census, and it creates new populations in different areas of the state. The state grew overall. We got one additional congressional seat, but that seat is not located in our area. It's going to be in kind of the central Florida area. So while South Florida did grow, we didn't grow as fast as other parts of the state. So in actuality, when they redid the maps, we lost one state Senate seat in South Florida, and I think we made one House seat in the South Florida area. So what really happened was all of us shifted. Like the map just kind of starts over fresh. And so my district will be shifted south, and that's what happened in all of Palm Beach County. So I currently represent Palm Beach County and Northwest Broward. I'm more the southern end of Palm Beach County. And so the new district, I'm currently District 29. The new district is going to be number 30 that I'm choosing to run in. And what they did to Boca, while I represent all of Boca now, unincorporated and incorporated, unfortunately they cut Boca in half because I really love representing all of you, and that won't be the case anymore. So they cut Boca in half along Glades Road. So south of Glades Road will be the Senate district that I'm running in. Sorry, Central. And north of Glades Road is my good friend, and you will meet her soon enough, Senator Lori Berman will be running in that seat. She's fantastic. And I'll let Kelly describe the House seat that she's running in and what happens in the House. And then much more of my district will be in Broward. So luckily I will still be representing West Boca, just south of Glades, from the Everglades to the ocean, straight across. But you know, the lines don't matter so much when we're up there. As I said, there's only 40 of us. We all work together as a delegation in Palm Beach County. I believe I'll be chair of the Palm Beach County delegation this year coming up. I think this might be my new vice chair. Hopefully that will happen. And so it really won't affect too much, except maybe who you call when you have a particular problem, because we try to work with the individuals that are in our district. So that's redistricting. You may have heard, that's redistricting in the Senate, and as I said, Kelly can explain the House part, but what you may have heard about, which was controversial, are the congressional maps. So what happens is, as I said, every 10 years we're required to do these maps, and during this regular session this past year, in March through May, January through March, that's next year. I feel like we were just there. January through March, we had redistricting, and we had to create a state Senate map, a state House map, and a congressional map for the federal seats. And the Senate and the House maps went pretty well, and they were voted on, and those have not been challenged. The congressional map, however, is a different story. So the Senate and the House in Florida voted for maps that we thought were fair and constitutional, and the governor disagreed. So after we went through a very long process of 60 days in session and committee weeks prior to that, and coming up with maps that were voted on in a bipartisan manner, the governor vetoed them and called us back for a special session, which we were in several weeks ago, where he proposed maps. And unfortunately, the Republicans did not hold to the map that they had worked on the entire year and that they believed to be constitutional. They caved in and voted in the governor's maps. The problem with that is it adds potentially 4 Republican seats to the congressional delegation, creating a very serious imbalance in the state, and it took away 2 minority access seats, not in South Florida, in North and Central Florida. And it is being litigated right now. It's going to be very expensive for us as the taxpayers to defend this unconstitutional map. And it was voted on along party lines. So that is the picture of redistricting. And while we were there, doing a special session, which is meant to be on just one topic, they called us back special just to go, the governor, about 3 hours before we gaveled in, told us about these Disney bills. And I just want to explain it to you because I'm sure you read about it in the paper or saw it on the news. The governor went after Disney. There was no pretense about it. Some of the people who were sponsoring the bills literally said it out loud, that if you mess with us, we're going to mess with you. And Disney has enjoyed a 50-year special taxing district for all the property that it owns. And it may sound like a little bit of a boondoggle, but they provide every service that they need for their customers and employees and to run the parks and for people who live there. Fire, police, sanitation, water, utilities. They do everything. So there's been no problem with this whatsoever. And there's never been a complaint as far as I've ever heard. And they decided to make a massive change. And this is massive because all of these services are going to have to be absorbed by the local counties, as well as debt that Disney has on these services, potentially raising taxpayers' expense there by 25%. And they were deciding this in a matter of 2 or 3 days, in a special session with no testimony, with no studies, with no conversation with stakeholders, because I asked that question. Does Orange County want this? They don't know. How are they gonna handle it? They don't know. So again, this was voted on along party lines and signed by the governor. I have a feeling that it's not gonna go forward and that they're gonna make some deal because it doesn't take effect for another year. But it was really unnecessary, wasted a lot of time, and is a huge encroachment into a private business and what a private business can say and not say and run itself accordingly. So that's my take on that. I'll pass it over to Kelly to tell her redistricting and then what other bills you'd like to start
Sure.
with.
Thank you, Senator. Hi, I'm Kelly Skidmore. I represent House District 81. It is the seat that is the western part of Boca Raton, Delray Beach, Boynton Beach, a little bit of Lake Worth, a tiny bit of Wellington, and then all of the Glades, so Pahokee, Belglade, and South Bay. The new district has been redrawn, as Senator Polsky has described, and it is now much more condensed. It's less of Boca, and so the new District 92 is going to be a smaller amount of West Boca, Delray, and Boynton only. The new District 91 will go all the way from the ocean to Lyons. So that is a new district. You will have another representative who will also be representing you as part of the West Boca Community Council. So that's always good news when you've got a couple more legislators working together on behalf of the community. So I'm looking forward to that. The one thing I want to add on Reedy Creek, that is the special district that Walt Disney World Company owns. Some taxpayers in Orange and Osceola County who are impacted by this change have already filed a lawsuit against the governor. So it will be very protracted. It was really just based on the fact that the Walt Disney World Company wanted to support its employees and say that some of the legislation that we passed was not good for its employees. Doesn't matter how much you want to get into the details, and a private company made a comment about a piece of legislation, and our governor and legislature decided to punish them for their opinion. I find that very, very disconcerting. I don't appreciate us, moving into that area. We did a lot of other things that I think are worrisome as well. We have a new way of banning books. We have a new way of policing elections. And so it's really important that you guys are paying attention and watching what we're doing and providing us input. I know this is my second session this time. I have previously served in the legislature many years ago, and I was also staff in the legislature even longer ago. And so when we have issues that concern homeowners associations and condominium associations, it's critical that we hear from you. And we have such a great relationship with the leadership of your organization, as well as your sister organizations in Delray, the Delray Alliance, and Boynton Beach, the Coalition of Boynton West Residential Associations. So we call you guys the ABCs. And you are our quasi-government, because out here in the West, we don't have any municipalities. So that's how we look at you in terms of your importance and your influence over what happens in our area. So I am delighted to be back here and talking with you again after a few years. And we will be going back to Tallahassee, as you probably heard, on a new special session regarding homeowners insurance. So we had, a year, we had all of our committee meetings and all of our legislative session to address some of these issues, but we were not able to get them across the finish line because we were distracted by a lot of issues that some of us didn't feel were as important as homeowners insurance, the Surfside collapse and making sure that our buildings are fortified and strengthened, rent increases that are putting people out of their homes. And so we have a lot of work to do in the legislature. I am so fortunate to work with strong leaders like Senator Polsky and Senator Berman. As Senator Polsky mentioned, we work together as a delegation. A lot of the legislation we passes unanimously or very close to unanimously. So about 95% of what we do, we are working together on. And then there's that 5% you always hear about, where we're fighting and butting heads against some of our philosophical or what some people we call culture wars. So there is a lot of good that gets done. I have a huge respect for the legislative process. I'm a big admirer of what we can do when we work together. So we're looking forward to really solving this kitchen table issue for Floridians. And there are different things that we can do. We've talked about litigation reform. We've talked about fraud in roofing replacement. And one of the things that I would like to have us talk about, which is actually a national solution, and that's a national catastrophic risk pool. It would work a lot like your flood insurance, which is, when you spread the risk, you reduce costs. And so that's something that I think is an opportunity for us to explore further. We had some legislative priorities that Senator Polsky and I worked together on, very specifically the budget. We were kind of flush this year. It was a $112 billion budget. $10 billion of that came from the federal government. And we were able to bring quite a lot of money home to Palm Beach County for important programs. I think Senator Polsky, you brought home $10 million for your district, and collectively I had about $3.8 million. And those are important dollars. They're everything from Riviera Beach water improvement. We had money for Promise Fund, which is cancer screening for women who have no insurance, and $1.7 million for workforce training, which is really important as we are in sort of the resignation era. We are investing in retooling individuals to be prepared for the workforce. So lots of good things happening along with some of the bad things that you hear about, and looking forward for us talking about specific legislation that you might be interested, questions that you might have about what we're going back to do in May. I also heard yesterday, I was on a trip to learn about what NASA is doing and how they're retooling themselves and working competitively and collaboratively with private enterprise. So Blue Origin and SpaceX and big companies like that. But on that bus of Republicans and Democrats, I did hear that we're in for another special session in June. So we're going to be busy this summer, and hopefully we'll be getting some things done that we didn't get accomplished during our regular legislative session. So stay tuned, and again, thank you for all the input that you provide us when we're grappling with issues that you guys are really the experts on. And I'm looking forward to getting some questions. Thank you, Sherry.
Yeah, I just wanted to add.
Yeah, you're not Sherry.
I just wanted to
She's back
add.
there. Thank you, Stanley.
That's okay.
I'm sure someone's going to ask us questions, so I'm just going to bring up one more topic preemptively, and then we can talk about it. The news of the week is obviously Roe versus Wade and what's going on with abortion. So I wanted to explain exactly what the law is in Florida. Prior to this session, Florida has a pretty strong right to privacy clause in its constitution, and that has held firm through the years against any kind of anti-abortion legislation. The law prior to this year was abortion is legal up until 24 weeks. and everything seemed to be going fine. But since the time that I've been there, they've added parental consent, notification, then parental consent. They've added a 24-hour waiting period. But what we did this year, prior to this week, this decision coming out, this was a couple months ago, they passed their first ban, 15-week abortion ban. What's really important about that, 15 weeks is kind of pulled out of the air. It has no meaning whatsoever with respect to viability. For those of you who may remember or know, a woman does not get an amniocentesis to check the health of the baby until 16 weeks. So 15 weeks is very clearly not the right number. No doctor has testified as to what that number means. But the real kicker was that there are no exceptions whatsoever for rape or incest. And the only exception is the absolute death of the mother, not just illness, death, and death of the unborn child, not just an abnormality. So that's the current law, just voted on completely along party lines this year and signed by the governor. Our true fear after this draft opinion that you've all heard about, which will probably become law this summer, is that after the next election, if the current leadership is still in place, that they will do a total ban on abortion. And so I just want you to all be aware of that for the November elections.
Thank you. So we will go to the public for questions. You've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, I just had one question. How come, what's the rationale for leaving out condo insurance when you mentioned HOA, but what about condos? Our insurance is going up 25%, so, and it's the second year.
No, it's not. So maybe I wasn't as articulate as I thought I was. When we go back in May for our special session, it will be on insurance, property insurance.
Homeowners.
For both?
Yes.
So not just.
Well, the homeowners is
Yeah,
still
yeah,
their home.
it's condominiums, it's freestanding, it's everything, it's property insurance, but not, for homeowners. Oh, come on, you guys.
I
have
know. Any other
questions?
questions?
Well, I got a
Come on.
There we go, there's Fred.
Fred, then I'll get you.
Okay. The Palm Beach Post recently announced on page 1 that they received the Outstanding Journalism Award for their multi-part article called Black Snow. Black snow is the ash that is generated by the burning of pre-harvest sugarcane, which is what the sugarcane industry in Florida does in order to remove the outer leaf, which has no value. Other countries do green harvest, where they cut the leaf off because of environmental concerns. Florida is one of the states most susceptible to sea level rise. Besides that, we have tremendous impact on people's health in the Glades area. Most of the sugarcane is on the south shore of Lake O. However, the black snow has been detected in Delray Beach, in Boynton Beach. It does travel depending on the wind. The policy of the state of Florida had allowed institutionalized racism, wherein the sugarcane was only burned on days when the wind was blowing towards people of color and not the well-to-do people.
Get to the question, please.
There was a recent
What's the
lawsuit,
question?
and that lawsuit was thrown
Fred,
out.
can you ask your question?
So you guys want to know, what can you do when you go to your next legislative session, is you could get Florida to be in conformance with the whole concept of green harvest. They can do it. It won't eliminate jobs. We don't want to eliminate the crop. We just want to eliminate the pollution. And it's labor intensive. It will actually generate jobs. You'll be seen as heroes in the streets of Lake's sugar growing
Fred, is there a
region.
question in there?
So the question is, will you commit to trying to eliminate pre-harvest burns of sugar, which cause so much asthma and children, shorten lives, reduce property values? You can't sell a home in those communities. And by the way, they use faulty monitors and try to fool us into thinking that the air there was actually cleaner than in the other parts of the state. Thank you. Thank you.
If the question is, will we propose legislation to stop sugarcane burning, I will not be doing so.
You will
I
not.
will not propose, I haven't in the past 4 years, and I will not propose legislation.
Can you tell us why? Are we allowed to ask that?
You can ask that. We've discussed this many times, Fred. There is no such thing as institutionalized racism of fire and burning. the Forest Service are the ones who make the decision each and every day whether or not to allow the burn based on the winds. And it has nothing to do with which direction it's going in. The lawsuit was dismissed because they could not find the health concerns that you talked about. They couldn't even find enough plaintiffs to be in the case. And so, you know, yeah, the air quality is there's a lot of controversy whether or not that is true, that the air quality is any worse. Many studies show the opposite way. We represent the Glades. I have so for 4 years. They will not be in my district going forward. But that area is not looking to do what you're talking about. I have to answer to my own constituents. They don't want that, and so I'm not going to propose something that they don't want because some people, you know, 50 miles away want to change the policy. So that's one.
One follow-up?
No.
One follow-up? Quick
There's a
follow-up?
lot of other
Do you accept campaign donations from the sugar industry?
Fred.
I'm not answering that.
Fred.
Thank you.
Thank you. Harry.
Yeah, I just want the people who came from Whisper War to know that I did speak to Representative Skidmore. But Fred brought up something having to do with the sugar fields. Well, we're sniffing in from the turnpike, okay? And that is what's happening. We are getting the smoke, we're getting the construction, the congestion that's there, and we really, if I have to stand up there and find somebody who's the head of FP&L, I will do it. Because this is a situation that has gotten out of hand.
Harry, do you want to, because I know people are sitting here saying FP&L, what's that got to do with it? Do you want to explain that?
Want me to
Yeah, so that everybody understands what you're asking for.
Well, it seems that FPL does a lot of business in our section. And every time they add Comcast and Hotwire and Direct and AT&T, they have to make their poles higher. We were told that they have an easement. And what has happened is, they come in, you never know, they cut the trees where the trees are not even balanced. And there was a fire recently. And the fire destroyed, as you see, I showed you pictures, a lot of land there. Well, first, just to get to them, I went to the fire department. They sent that record to FP&L, but guess what? If you don't talk to them, they don't have to worry about doing anything. Well, it seems that what happens is they don't comply to Palm Beach County. Palm Beach County gotta have a canopy on your trees, not here by the wire. So when the fire came, it loosened 2 fica trees that we had to remove because they were leaning. They were not balanced at all. That was $7,500. They paid us that, and they gave us money to buy eucalyptus. But when they planted, we got them to fill in the holes because of the poles that they put in. They put in the eucalyptus, but they were diseased. So I have $19,500 from FP&L, but to clean it out and put back at least some foliage that we won't get, never mind the noise. I'm talking about pollution that we're getting is gonna run us $130,000, and we don't have the money. We have been building a wall that nobody else wanted to do, and I think that we just ran out of a lot of money. And that's all I can say.
And it
So
should be stated that the
representatives-
fire was started by FP&L's line.
Right. So I believe Representative Skidmore is working on that. Her staff is working on that and just got the paperwork that she needed last week from FP&L, so.
So
I'm sure-
everybody, Dr. Gwen Gonzalez is my legislative aide. She's there. She works 24/7 actually, but if you need us, our office is right by the Glades and the Turnpike, and she's there every day.
So Harriet, I'm sure you'll be hearing from them soon with how, you know, what they can do to help.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
If I may, we're 718 as a condo. We went to our attorney and said, look, attached houses, individual homeowners in our village, it's mandatory that we get a copy of their insurance to protect the homeowner who's attached to them. That situation is on an individual basis. There's no legislation that I'm aware of that exists as far as what you're talking about. Is that something you would consider as part of your insurance program?
I think that, and you're the attorney, Senator Polsky, so you might have better, or maybe Neil has a better answer. That should be part of your condo docs. That would be a requirement that you would say, as a homeowner, as a property owner, you are required to provide this to us.
That's exactly what we did.
Right, so that's a requirement. If they sign those documents, then you can file a complaint in court against them for not providing it. I don't know that the legislation has to be changed, but I'm happy to look at it if you think that that's a solution.
Well, I think that's something that an incredible amount of homeowners are not protected because it's not in their documents, because it is an individual thing, as you pointed out. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
I just want to say I'm really happy to hear that you'll be leading the Palm Beach delegation up there, especially when it comes to this homeowners insurance situation. So, thank you.
And not only that, but we're also going to get Berman. Senator Berman will be representing us. So then we've got the dynamic trio representing us. We also gained a county commissioner for West Boca that represents now Boca West, Mayor Weinroth. So we're doing good. We're getting some decent representation. So we're happy about that.
We had decent representation.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting additional.
And decent. And decent. Very good. We're happy about it.
When you were talking about, I know HOA and condo insurance for the homeowners, are you also working on insurance for the developments themselves as well?
No, I don't know that is in there. What we are working on are rates, on how we are going to stabilize property insurance rates. So to the extent that your association has a policy, then yes. But it is specifically in regard to property insurance rates that are escalating and causing more insurance companies to have to leave the state of Florida because they can't, they're not actuarially sound, and there's not a competitive landscape for consumers. So we've got to be able to do something that recognizes that situation. And listen, it's either you get less benefits, pay more premium, or we have to change something about the way that it's operating. So all of that is going to be on the table.
All right, so unfortunately,
We were already informed because our property management company, I guess they attended all of these webinars from the attorneys and everything else, and we've already been pre-warned that due to the escalating insurance costs, expect a huge budget and a huge maintenance increase for next year.
Oh, yeah.
For myself personally, I just had my insurance canceled for the 4th time.
Wow.
I just went to Allstate because I can't deal with any Floridian insurance anymore. And truthfully, my Allstate prices were pretty good.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult for consumers right now.
right, so unfortunately, you as a homeowner, you pay your homeowners or you pay your condos, or your condo insurance, and then on top of that, you have your association insurance, which just like the homeowners insurance is up 20-30%, in some cases more than double. So you pay for it twice, not only for yourself, but then you pay for it in your dues. It's a problem. It's a big
And
problem.
just one other question, when you were talking about insurance roofing fraud, can you elaborate on that?
Certainly. So it's a bit of a scheme where a roofer will come to your house and say, you know, there was a hailstorm that went by here yesterday, and your roof is probably damaged. I can go and inspect it for you. And then comes down and says, yeah, you need a new roof, and I can get it paid for by your insurance company. So they create the problem and then solve the problem by charging your insurance company for you to get a new roof, whether you needed a new roof or not. So because that is such a prevalent thing that's happening, it's causing the insurance companies to have to increase their rates, because this was not part of when they put their plan together and their actuarial numbers together, they were not accounting for all of this fraud. So we as a state, we have to do something about that. We have to have additional funding for investigators. We have to really crack down on the folks who are perpetrating this undue burden on insurance companies, and it's just become very, very prevalent throughout the state. So we hear it from Pensacola all the way to Key West. There are a lot of folks taking advantage of the situation.
Would that have anything to do with damages from named storms?
That's separate. That's a real claim, right? If you have a real claim, that's different. That is contributing to escalating costs as well. But fraud is also a big part of it.
Ma'am?
And this is just something that I read that I don't know if you guys want to consider it during your legislative session or not. But in addition to the fact that we have the kind of fraud you're talking about roofers wanting to sign over your insurance and then they make a claim against your insurance company, that Florida has like 8 or 9% of like the cost of claims, but we have like 79% of the cost of litigation against insurance companies. So I'm thinking that there's another issue here too that needs to be looked at. I mean, if we indeed, and I don't know for a fact if it's true, if we indeed have such a large percentage of litigation in state court versus what other states have, it's no wonder the insurance companies won't leave us.
Yeah, that's on the table.
So last year, we passed a bill that did do some litigation reform. It required more notice for the insurance companies, so they have an opportunity to try to settle the case before litigation started. That would really cut back on costs. It affected attorneys' fees so that there would be less litigation. That has really just gone into effect, and there hasn't been an opportunity for that to affect the price of our premiums. In other words, it's going to take a few years before we see the benefit of those reforms that we put in last year. So that's why there was some hesitation to do more on property insurance this past session, because we didn't really give the stuff we did last year time to work and to see if that would help. So the Senate did pass 2 bills on property insurance. The House wouldn't take them up because there's a difference of opinion on how to approach it. The governor just didn't seem to care. He was very focused on other nonsensical issues and didn't care. Obviously, it's so many people here in this room care about it. And so we should have been focused on that from day one, and we weren't. So now we have to go back for a special session, which is only a couple of days. It's less than 2 weeks away. We still haven't seen a bill yet, because I think the House and the Senate still can't agree. There's no easy answer. Yes, there's too much litigation in Florida, but if the insurance companies aren't paying the claims, then you need to get a lawyer to get the claims paid. We also have tremendous climate issues here, and this is going to be a much more expensive state to insure. And so that's something that we have to take into account as well. It's not just one answer. It's, as Kelly said, it's fraud, it's litigation, it's our climate, it's insurance company profit. There's a whole mix of things, and it's not easy to figure out. If it were, I'm sure we would have figured it out. But we also need to really focus on it. And finally, now we will. Unfortunately, it's a few weeks for hurricane season.
Go ahead.
Why are these major insurance companies, brand names, allowed to cherry pick the type of business that they want to write? They all pulled out after Hurricane Wilma, Nationwide, State Farm, Allstate, but they still continue to write automobile insurance, vessel insurance, all that stuff that's profitable. Why are they allowed to do that, to cherry pick this product?
I know that we have an insurance expert in the Senate who runs the committee, and I actually mentioned that to him, like, if you want to have automobile insurance, you have to have property insurance. And I don't remember the answer, but he said, we'll bring it back, but there was some discussion of it. It may not be legal. I don't know the answer. We may not be able to force them to carry other kinds of insurance. So I think it's not an easy answer like that. I think if it were, then they would. But I just also read that we have the most expensive automobile insurance in the country.
We do.
And we do have a lot of accidents, so, you know, it's kind of like the weather. Like, we have tough weather for homes, right? Even if we didn't have the hurricanes, you know, the rust, the wear, the salt water, the humidity, very tough on our homes. We have a lot of people driving here. We have a lot of elderly drivers. We have a lot of unsafe drivers, and so we have a lot of accidents, and that might be one of the reasons why we have such high insurance. So it's sort of like a chicken and an egg situation.
My comment was also with the auto insurance, that there's a lot of companies that will gladly charge you a lot of money for the auto insurance, but they won't take your homeowner's insurance. It should be required to take so many properties. There's only like 5 companies.
In 2006, 2007, we had this discussion then. So Citizens Property Insurance, you know, presumably the insurer of last resort, has become the largest insurer in the state of Florida. And back when we were grappling with this issue almost 20 years ago, we did put that legislation forward, that if you are going to benefit from writing policies for cars or vessels or any other kind of opportunity, you have to provide some level. But your rates have to be approved. They have to be actuarially sound. That was a hard word to say. And so they can't always get those passed. They don't have enough in reinsurance because they can't afford the reinsurance that it requires. So there's, as Senator Polsky said, there are a dozen moving parts in terms of property insurance. And we have not done a good job as we've been going along to create a stable environment, to make sure that companies are sound, and to create a situation where Citizens is not the only game in town.
Yeah. Geico, Allstate, State Farm, they all have enough.
I just have,
I have a question. I was very interested when you, windstorm insurance, I remember so clearly a few years ago where this big hurricane hit New Jersey, but suddenly it became a superstorm. It wasn't a hurricane until it became a superstorm when it hit the coast. And is it true, are we, Florida, really the donor state with windstorm? Are there other states that are being assessed for windstorm and hurricane insurance other than Florida? And I like the idea you said about spreading it into a national program, which would take the risk way down, let everybody share this.
Sure.
We seem to donor in a lot of places outside of the state of Florida, true?
I'll be honest with you. We don't, in terms of our insurance, we're not donating anything to another state in terms of windstorm insurance. So that's all staying within the boundaries of Florida, right? What companies may or may not offer in other states it depends on the legislative environment there, what's allowed, what's legal, what the regulatory framework would allow to happen. So again, I agree. A national catastrophic risk pool spreads the risk. That's how you reduce costs. That's what we should be looking at.
this is just an example of the cherry picking for you guys. I've been a State Farm customer for 45 years or so, and of course when Andrew came through, then we ended up with Citizens and da-da-da-da-da. Well, State Farm came out, my agent said, oh, we're going to start to offer property insurance again. And we said, okay, fine, we'll sign up. And then they looked at our property and said, oops, we can't write on you because your house was built before 1992.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted you to know about that
So-
piece of cherry picking. That's
Do you
all.
want-
Just an FYI.
So there are mitigation efforts that you can complete, whether that is tie downs or different types of
We
things
have.
that your insurance company will then reevaluate your availability to be part of their pool.
Okay, because we have.
Okay.
Sir?
Well, you still might not meet the threshold then.
During the height of COVID, I was on a webinar with lawyers, management companies, and so on, where they stated that everybody across the board was getting, condominiums were getting at least 20%, if not double their rates because of the possibility of them being sued over a code of incident in their property. And this was approved by the state insurance commissioner. And over the years, it always seems that anything that the insurance companies asked for, the commissioner just okays. Here they were raising the rates of all of the condominiums just on a possibility that hadn't happened. They hadn't had one case yet at that time, but yet everybody's insurance was going up.
Yeah, there's not a question in there, but you know, there is a person, there is an individual who is the insurance commissioner, yeah, Jimmy
And I
Petronas,
have
so.
State Farm, and he approves everything they ask for, and my rates go up and my coverage goes down.
Yeah, there's an Office of Insurance Regulation, where you have to prove your case. So as an insurance company, you do have to go and you do have to say, and this is again, when they go before OIR, the Office of Insurance Regulation, they say if a storm were to hit and the properties that we are insuring in this particular area were damaged, we don't have enough money to pay it out. So we can't write insurance there. Or we have to increase our rate by X amount so that we can cover the cost of that. And the Office of Insurance Regulation says, yeah, you're right. If there were an incident, if there were a storm, you wouldn't be able to pay. And in order for you to be actuarially sound, you have to increase your rates. And so this is where we live. This is the cost of our buildings. If you're talking about things other than windstorm, if you're talking about things like Surfside, like foundational problems or inspections that aren't being done or code enforcement that isn't being followed, those are different types of things. But in terms of, if we're just talking about windstorm insurance and property insurance, that they have to make their case to OIR.
Okay, but I'm talking about a code of lawsuits brought up as an association because they supposedly caught it because either the association didn't close the clubhouse and I caught it there. And this is what the lawyers were saying. COVID. This is what the this is what the lawyers were saying in this.
Sorry, I totally misunderstood that
these
question.
price increases, like I said, from 20% to double.
So, well, first of all,
were being put in place with no background for anything.
there's legislation was passed 2 years ago that prevents liability for COVID on businesses. If the condo has spent a lot of money on air filters and cleaning and different things throughout COVID, and they're passing that expense along, that's out of.
No, you're missing the point.
There shouldn't be.
The lawyers were saying, and the insurance companies were saying, that they just, across the board, raised the rates to all associations.
I'm not familiar with it.
And this was on a webinar with lawyers, management companies, and we did get a rate increase.
I'm sorry, we're not familiar with that. It shouldn't be because of COVID per se.
No, this was strictly because of COVID, just on the possibility that you might have a lawsuit brought against the association, and the rates did go up.
I can't answer. The only thing I can say is if you're not happy with the Office of Insurance Regulation, as Representative Skidmore mentioned, we have a CFO in the state. His name is Jimmy Petronas. He's been in for the past 4 years. If you're not happy with insurance, he's up for re-election in November. And so, obviously, this room is very concerned about insurance. I don't think that they've fixed the problem in the last 4 years. It's under his domain, so consider that.
Thank you. Ma'am, go ahead.
You just mentioned Surfside and foundation situations. What is coming up on the proposed for the legislature to be able to cover situations like that?
You mean financially for?
Well, financially for the owners as well. I mean, that was $14 million that
there was a bill that the Senate passed that requires more building inspection. There are some, the city of Boca has done their own, some here to talk about that, has done their own to increase, the every 40 years, which is pretty extreme. Because I think of what it might cost, or how much money needs to be kept in reserves, the House did not take up the bill. And so we passed nothing with regard to building inspections or anything as a result of the Surfside tragedy.
And there won't be.
Well, we could potentially do it in a special session, I doubt it. It could come up again next year, but unfortunately, we should have done something on it. But that did not include any kind of funding for buildings. I mean, unfortunately, to increase the safety and the number of inspections and the repairs, it's gonna cost the owners. It's not, there's nothing that the state is not gonna put in a pot of money to help buildings get fortified or inspected.
I mean, would they do something to allow buildings to remortgage to do things?
They have to be able to pay.
Yeah, I mean, the state's not gonna supplement it.
Well, I take one moment and I'd like to introduce Andy Thompson, who's here. He's with the Boca City Council. But Andy, do you want to introduce yourself and tell everyone what you're running for?
I would love to. Hi, everybody. I'm Andy Thompson. I have the pleasure of serving not in West Boca, but on the City of Boca Raton City Council. I've been there for 4 years. Before that, I lived in West Boca in the La Jolla neighborhood off 18th Street, so I know West Boca well. I've been in South Florida my whole life. My parents met at FAU in the 60s, right when FAU was first built. They met in the library, they got together, got married, had me and my brother, so I guess in a way I'm a product of Florida Atlantic and Boca Raton. And so that has helped me actually, and I have five, sorry. My oldest here is Allie, she's 10. She goes to Calusa Elementary School. Her and her younger sister and younger brother go there for now. We have a new school coming into the city of Boca Raton, Blue Lake, which is actually going to be fantastic. It's going to be first new school built in South Palm Beach County in many years. And to answer your question, Sherry, I am running to represent both the city of Boca and West Boca in the State House of Representatives in a newly drawn district that includes the city of Boca and West Boca. That election is not until November. I came to these meetings many years ago when I first moved to West Boca back in the early 2010s. It's been a few years since I've been here, but it's good to be back, and we've seen a lot more in between now and then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sherry, if I might add, okay. I'm very proud to endorse Andy for this seat. I've known him a long time, and he will be hopefully representing a lot of the area that I have represented over the last 4 years, and so I hope you'll consider him in November.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Yes, I just said thank you for working on insurance. That's very important. But there was a question by one of our directors at the board meeting last night about trees, that we have to get special permission if we want to cut a tree. Is that, am I right? I have no idea.
Pretty sure it's a county issue.
No, it's actually, I know a little bit about that law, that last year in the legislation, they passed a law that if you had a tree or landscaping that was creating a safety issue or structural issue, sidewalks, driveways, that you could remove that without the county's permission, without going to your local government for permission. So, and I believe this year, and I don't know if it passed or not, that it was supposed to be clarified that it did not, it only included homes. It did not, it excluded the associations, where associations on their common areas, they were not given the right to remove without going through the county, which many of you, if you had to remove a tree or in the common areas, it's expensive. And then with the county, you were required to replace it like size or height or 10 more, whatever it was. So I believe they clarified that this year.
We can look it up if you want. We can talk to Gwen after the meeting and we'll find out what the law is.
Sir?
I was gonna wait until we got off the state issue, but I want to say I'm very disappointed in this council. I called about a year and a half ago, possibly 2 years ago, and spoke to somebody and said, could somebody come down and take a look at what the Boca Country Club has done to our entryway on that clearing out of the preserve. If you want to know what Mariupol in Ukraine looks like, come look it up, sir. I mean, they went through their decision, they left it there, they don't care anymore. I was told by certain people, where it's out of our hands. Well, let me tell you, if that's what's out of your hands, that you cannot support a community, then what's the good of this council? I mean, I asked somebody to come down and take a look at it, but the representative on the commission said it's out of our hands. However, the county is the one who reviewed the plan initially, and agreed to a plan, but has not had the gumption, the wherewithal to come inspect the mess that they made at our entrance and behind some of the houses. I'm asking for your help. Come look, then let's talk. You know, I don't have big pictures to show you here. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was disgusting.
I did see the entrance where they removed the tree. That's the county commission and Palm Beach County Code, but we'll certainly reach out to them again.
Please, because it is a disaster.
Yep. Any other questions or?
I would like to know if we're gonna get a wall.
A wall?
A wall against the turnpike, because it's very noisy and
What
there is
community?
car racing at night.
Summer winds.
What community?
Summer winds and Whisper Walk.
Whisper Walk.
Harriet talked about it.
Yes, I
I've
believe,
been there for 21 years, we never had so much noise like we do now.
We had a meeting, this is pre-COVID, because it was in this room, so probably 3 years ago, with the turnpike people. I don't know if you were there.
Yes.
So they explained the plans, they had a plan for expansion, they were doing a restudy, so nothing's happening in the immediate future. But people asked a lot about walls, and they said that they don't put up walls. And some communities have walls, those communities put them up, pay for them themselves. That was the gist that I got from our.
the sound walls that are on the turnpike.
We have not, just can I say one thing? We have nothing to do with the Turnpike Authority. If you have a situation, we can act as liaisons to help you get answers from people, but I cannot defend or describe, what the Turnpike Authority does, what the Department of Transportation does. We can help as liaisons to get to the right people, but I did host a meeting here for that purpose because there was a lot of angst in the community. That was my takeaway from it, but if you need a meeting or something, we'll help you with that, but we can't answer for that, but maybe Sharon.
So many years ago, when they were widening the turnpike and they went to all the communities who wanted a sound wall, and at the time, Whisper Walk had beautiful landscaping behind Whisper Walk, between Whisper Walk and the turnpike.
Sherry, excuse me. I asked around and I was told that they were never given the option of getting a sound wall. We're only one section of 5.
And I'm going to disagree with you. Harriet Schoenbaum, remember Harriet?
Absolutely.
Harriet, and I don't know what went on within Whisper Walk because I know that the council tried.
Harriet she lives in Park Shore, which is in the middle.
Okay, but
so
she was
doesn't have to worry about a sound wall.
But that was who your representative was.
Well,
and at that time, Whisper Walk did not want a wall because their landscaping would be removed. So now we know it was shortly after that, after the walls were put up by Century Village and going north. And on the west side of the turnpike, we have I don't know if it was Wilma or Jean Francis, one of them, that came in and wiped out the Whisper Walk landscaping. And then Shanefield, Mr. Shanefield, I know he was on this constantly trying to get the wall. It is my understanding, and maybe Andy, you know this, my understanding and from what I've read online, that there is a sound wall coming, because they're working on the turnpike there, and that they will be putting in a wall there, and that's on the FDOT website.
Excuse me, we were told at that meeting that Tina had, that they had a test again.
This gentleman has his hand up in the
Even
back.
though we passed it the
Go
first
look
time.
on FDOT's website, it'll tell you where they're putting in sound walls. And I believe it is in Palm Beach County to the Broward County line where there are not existing, including Boca.
In the back,
Sir?
sure.
I hate to disagree with everybody. Since 2015, I have documented 33 communications with either the county, the state, the governor's office, FP&L, DOT, and FDOT. And everybody says, we don't handle that, go to FP&L. FP&L doesn't handle that, go to FDOT. FDOT, well, we're not doing that now, go to the governor's office. The governor's office says it's under review. So I'm not going to go through it all. 33 communications. I can document anytime you want to see them. The latest is that we're waiting now for the turnpike to be expanded. And when the turnpike is expanded, we're on the list. However, 3 times prior to this point in time, we were told that in order to even qualify for the sound wall, we needed to have a decibel level above a certain point. Otherwise, there was no need for a sound wall. Well, number one, all 3 times we qualified. All 3 times we had the decibel level above that point. So that's the sound wall. Now let me just continue on if you don't mind. Subsequent to Irma, a lot of our vegetation on the turnpike was destroyed by FP&L. Not so much by Irma, but by FP&L going back and forth and actually driving over areca palms so that they could get to the wires that they were charging everybody for Xfinity, for the phone companies, which were technically on our property, but they had an easement. So they destroyed the arenas. Subsequently, they came and actually replaced them. Sounds like a great idea, right? The arenas that they replaced them with, we find later through a number of botanists who have come and reviewed that those arenas were infested with Ganoderma. Now comes FP&L with their fire. You heard about the fire, right? So they burned a bunch of trees, about 30 yards worth, and they're going to replace them. We go to talk to our people in the departments that would be planting trees, and they said, well, you know, we can plant these, they're all going to die anyway. Why are they going to die? Well, you have Ganoderma 1,200 feet long, and if you take a look, this one lost the top, this one lost the top, this one has mushrooms and so on. So here's where we are right now. We are in 2 places. One, we're in limbo for the sound wall. 2, what we did have that gave us a modicum of relief from sound and dust and dirt from the turnpike, we're losing all of that. So we need to replace 1,200 feet of arenas. The cap for that, we have found out, was somewhere north of $125,000. Our community right now is being assessed $8,000 a head for roofs. We are not a St. Andrews. We can't afford another $125,000. So therefore, we're going to have 0. Not only are we not going to have a sound wall, we're not even going to have the plans.
Well, when Andy Thompson is
Dr. Gonzalez
elected,
tomorrow about it a little bit.
Andy's gonna fix it.
Andy's gonna fix it.
Did you get it? Was it succinct?
Andy, don't you sit on the turnpike?
I sit on, as part of being on the
TPA?
city of Boca Raton City Council, I serve on the Transportation Planning Agency for the county.
But we're in the design phase.
Yes, so I wouldn't shut the door so quickly on getting the sound wall. My understanding was it's in process, and it's supposed to be on the list. I can check and see further, but I feel like I may have to run into the same 33 communications that you did to get to that answer, but I'll check.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, well, thank you all for coming. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, Governor and Representative. Thank you.
Great meeting.